All right. Welcome, everybody. Glad to see you all trickling in. Thanks for joining us. I know for some of you, the school year is already over. For some of us, it is getting close to being over. I didn't notice if anybody was from Australia and you're on or the Southern Hemisphere and you're on a totally different academic year than we are. So welcome. Appreciate you on this day. What, AI Awareness Day? Is that what it's called? June
Mm,
4th.
yeah,
And
interesting.
oh yeah, so
Oh,
so thank you everybody for being here. We are here to talk about, oh, see, the background doesn't work so well there. Our little tiny, I love my little tiny book, right? It's a quick read, everybody. So some of you know me from The Opposite of Cheating and also Mary and Zeenath because they were on our podcast, the Opposite of Cheating podcast, earlier to talk about our book when it came out. But it's an element as part of a series about Gen AI in higher education. And Mary, I put that link to the whole series in the Google Doc if you want to share it with folks. And that's why it's small. It's just intended to be, and they call them elements, and they're tended to be a part of a large um, portfolio of books that are tackling oh goodness, the perplexing, wicked problem of generative AI in education. Our book is quite different than The Opposite of Cheating. It is, I really enjoy how we tackled this. So the first part of the book is really looking back. What is academic integrity? How did it form? What is the progression of academic integrity research and thought over the course of decades? And then we looked at the history of technological disruptions to education and integrity, because obviously AI is not the first disruption. And we went way back in time to the printing press, all the way up to our current situation. So we situate the book in that past. We think it's really important to understand the history and our past in order to solve problems in the present. Then in the second section, we went into the future. We went 20 years in the future to 2045. And we said, what might academic integrity in the university look like in 20 years, given the advances in AI, and of course the advances come daily, so it's it's pretty bold and brave, I guess, of us, courage, we would say, to try and guess what university is going to be like in 20 years, and we could be totally wrong. And in fact, Zeenath and Mary and I hope we are totally wrong about the future that we have in this book. Although I mean, I wouldn't mind being Verity Shield, which we're going to read about in a minute. And then we analyze, we explain why we think that future might unfold the way it is, the way we describe. And today we're going to read a little excerpt from that fictional story that we did develop with Claude's help. Claude mainly as a development editor. Pangram thinks it's mostly human written, so there you go on that front. And then we're going to talk about, briefly go over these today, 5 predictions, 5 reasons why we think that future might unfold the way it is. And then the second half of the book is about practical questions, answering the practical questions for now about policy, process, teaching, learning, and assessment, and teaching with and about Gen AI with integrity to try and help us change the future that we predicted earlier in the book. So that's the synopsis of the book. It's really written for everybody from students to faculty to administrators. There's no one specific audience, and we hope it gives people some food for thought in just making decisions now that will definitely shape the future of our institutions, but also of our students for the next 20 plus years. So, Zeenath, Mary, are you ready for a dramatic reading?
we are.
Do we want
Okay.
to introduce ourselves first?
Oh, we were
Or-
gonna, I forgot about introducing ourselves. I figured everybody knows you all, so I didn't bother. Sorry. I said our names, but I didn't introduce us. So Mary.
just to show, we are quite diverse team, um, and also to explain lack of expertise with certain accents. Anyway, I'm Professor Mary Davis. I work at Oxford Brookes University in the UK, where I'm academic integrity lead. Um, but I do a fair amount internationally, especially through ICAI. I'm Vice President for Communications, IDOA, International Day of Action, co-chair, and the ICAI blog editor. Over
And
to
she
you,
does a
Zeenath.
fantastic job at all of those things.
Thank you.
And Mary and I are the grandmothers here at this point in the academic integrity movement. I used to be the new kid on the block, and Mary was too back in what, 2002 or so. And so that's how long we've been around in academic integrity. And then we've got Zeenath.
Hi everyone. So I'm logging in from very hot Dubai, UAE.
Oh.
I'm an associate professor for responsible information systems at University of Wollongong in Dubai, which is actually an Australian university. So although I'm in the Middle East, my trimester is very much aligned with Australian semesters.
Hmm.
I'm also the founding president for a national level Center for Academic Integrity, where we also have an AI ethics lab. So we do a lot that is focused on, building cultures among campuses, among students, making students champions, making them the voices, and sending them out there as our champions, talking about integrity and why it's important. And yeah, I've been really excited to be a part of this experience. I had never written a monograph, so it's been quite a learning curve for me. So I really want to thank both Tricia and Mary for the opportunity and the experience that I've gained.
And the great thing about Zeenath's work over there is she works with K through 12 folks too. So she is one of the few people doing great work. I think that we should all be doing that K through 20 approach. I think we need more symbiosis and congruency between our different levels of education if we're really going to tackle this problem. So I appreciate all that work that Zeenath is leading on over there. Okay, now can we do the dramatic? You can tell I was a theater kid. Now can we do the dramatic reading? All right, so we are starting not quite at the beginning of the fictional story. There, I should set it up, I suppose. The story takes place in 2045 in a fictional university called Nexus University. It has two main characters, Chase Dreams, which is who is a freshman at the university, and Dr. Verity Shield, who is a director of, what is her full title? She's a director of academic integrity, basically, but she has several units underneath her. And so we are going to start with a section that focuses on Chase Dreams, and then a section that focuses on Verity Shield, and we'll just read those two sections. So I am going to narrate this first section. Chase Dreams, an 18-year-old freshman at Nexus, sighs. Likely his 100th time today. University is so much harder than he thought it would be. School itself is pretty doable because of Neri, his AI best friend, confidant, tutor, and assistant. Neri takes care of most academic tasks for him, or at least the ones Chase doesn't care about. But everything else to do with school is so hard. Chase wonders when he's going to make some real lasting friends, when he's going to get his laundry done this week, and when's he going to figure out what he's doing here and why he's bothering with any of it. Just then, he notices a sign outside the Career Center that quips, "For every 1,000 graduates, there's one job. How will you ensure you'll be the one to get it? Come in and find out."
Geez, that's harsh.
Chase thinks.
Neri,
Chase asks.
Yes, Chase, what can I do for you?
Says a voice projecting directly into Chase's ear from his Avidius glasses.
what's my next class?
Neri projects a map in Chase's vision, which directs him to his next class.
Don't forget, it's your intro to writing class.
Neri chastises like his mother used to do.
Oh, crap. That one sucks. I actually have to do things like write in the class. I wish you could do it for me. Like, when are you going to have a body with fingers that actually work? Or be able to use my fingers as your own? Wouldn't that be so cool, Neri?
Chase wonders, more than asking. At that exact moment, Neri alerts Chase that he has a notification from the school. Chase Dreams,
It's
report.
green.
Oops, sorry, that's you.
I thought it was Neri.
It is. Go.
Report to the Dean of Students immediately after your class. This is an order, not a request.
I'm going to take over narrating now. Verity Shield is now standing at a lectern, facing the governing board in Nexus University's grand meeting room. Presenting the annual progress report for her academic integrity unit always feels like walking a tightrope, balancing between showcasing successes and justifying the need for continued vigilance and resources.
23 years ago.
Verity begins, her voice steady, despite the butterflies in her stomach.
When generative AI first made waves, we weren't ready. Today, we're still playing catch up, but we're making progress.
She flicks through her holographic slides, each one detailing the unit's achievements over the past year. Detection rates up 15%. Successful interventions resulting in a 22% decrease in integrity violations. Yet, the challenges loom large on her final slide: evolving AI, student pushback, faculty resistance. As she speaks, Verity's mind drifts to her journey from government cybersecurity analyst to professor, and now to this role she never imagined existing when she was completing her PhD. The burnout that drove her from her secretive government post seems almost quaint compared to the ethical minefield she now navigates daily.
Our biggest challenge remains the same.
She continues, noting the furrowed brows of the board members.
We're not just fighting technology, we're fighting complacency. Too many instructors still teach as if AI doesn't exist, making our job exponentially harder.
A hand raises in the back.
Dr. Shield, given your background in both government security and academia, do you believe our current approach is sustainable?
Verity pauses, weighing her words carefully. This is the crux of her internal struggle, the question that keeps her up at night.
Sustainable? No. Necessary for now? Absolutely. But our long-term strategy needs to evolve beyond detection and punishment. We need to fundamentally rethink education itself.
As murmurs ripple through the room, Verity steels herself for the inevitable pushback. The challenges of rethinking education loom large in her mind. Rigid accreditation requirements, entrenched student and parent expectations, the sacrosanct academic freedom of faculty. She can almost hear the board's arguments before they voice them.
We can't change the entire system overnight, Dr. Shield.
Board member Dr. Ellington's voice cuts through the chatter.
Your unit's work, while expensive, is our best defense.
Overnight? We've had 23 years.
Verity mutters internally. Before she can construct and voice a more diplomatic response, her wristcom vibrates urgently. A message from her lead analyst flashes across its surface. Emergency! Massive academic integrity breach! Need you now!
I apologized.
Verity addresses the board, her heart racing.
There's an urgent situation requiring my attention. We'll have to continue this discussion later.
The sound of Verity's running footsteps and pounding heart is unable to drown out either the audible expressions of the slight the board members are feeling or her own thoughts. Her race to the command center feels as depressingly familiar as the tech race she's in charge of. AI enables new cheating methods. They implement countermeasures, and the cycle continues endlessly. It's precisely why she left government cybersecurity, yet here she is, trapped in the same loop. Da, da, da.
So just two sections from the story, and let me tell you, why we think the story could, doesn't have to, as the Center for Humane Technology says, we have the power to shape the future we want to see. But given what's happening over the last just under 4 years since ChatGPT came out, we had some predictions. Prediction one, traditional grading schemas will continue to dominate. There's a lot of great voices out there like Josh Eilers that's saying, hey, maybe we should rethink grading. But that voice has been around for what, Zeenath and Mary, quite a number of years, decades, I would say, and nothing has really changed. So we don't expect over the next 20 years that it will change too much, or at least, en masse. Prediction two, generative AI will continue to entice students to offload learning. We don't see any regulations. We don't see any pushback. Well, we're seeing glimmers of pushback lately against the AI companies who design these tools to be addictive. They're using the same type of algorithmic design features that social media use. So even if I was an innocent student who just went to AI to say, do this, can you give me 3 sources that talk about this? Then ChatGPT lovingly says, hey, would you also like me to do this? Would you like me to write your 3 paragraphs for you? Hey, maybe I could write your whole introduction for you. So it's designed to keep the attention, and it's designed to entice and seduce, I would say, students and others
Continue to use.
to outsource, right?
Yes.
Prediction number 3, higher education will still be in the credentialing business. If we're lucky, we'll still be around. And if we're around, I suspect we'll still be trying to be credentialed. Like we are the ones that issue diplomas and degrees. We're seeing some cracks in that surface, at least in America, Zeenath and Mary, where employers are saying you don't need a bachelor's degree anymore for these jobs. So we're seeing some cracks in the system. But if I could, my prediction might be that other companies get in the business of facilitating learning, and we end up just in the business of credentialing. That's a possibility as well. And prediction 4, this growing emphasis on credentialing will lead to increased security. So we see this in China and India now, where they have drones circling exam centers for their big national exams. A lot of this high level surveillance security stuff is already happening in certain countries around the world. And so that could spread throughout the systems. And prediction number 5 is, even though this is a series on generative AI, we would be remiss to not talk about predictive AI. Predictive AI has been happening in the background for a while now, but it's possible that they'll get used together. So Neri, elsewhere in the story, reminded Chase that he gave permission for the university to access all his data through her. And so they could look at his sleep patterns and his eating patterns and when he goes to class and when he doesn't go to class, and use that as predictive data to track him and perhaps for good reasons, give interventions to help him from failing or dropping out, but also maybe, that's not so great either. So that's why those are our 5 predictions of why that story might turn out the way it did.
So another part of the book, we are trying to look at the practical questions for now and for in the future. And one part of that is about policies and procedures. It might be helpful to look at policies at different levels. So to look sort of maybe even nationally at a macro level, institutionally might be the middle sort of meso level, and then the micro could be within programs or modules. As Tricia said earlier in this session, there are countries in the world, such as the UK, where we have a very important quality assurance agency, so a national agency. In the UK, it's QAA, Quality Assurance Agency. In Ireland, they have QQI. In Australia, TEXA. So all of these bodies help to provide national guidance that's then adopted by institutions. So we have a charter for academic integrity that's then national. And so obviously that provides a sort of benchmark and general standards. And then it also maybe helps at the meso middle level for institutions to pick up that responsibility for
Mm.
ensuring that they don't ignore what's going on, but develop a policy and, as a consequence, have a procedure for dealing with misuse, for dealing with different sorts of academic integrity situations that relate to AI. So establishing that is really important. And then if we
Mm.
look in at a micro level, then that's really what are instructors doing in the classroom to teach ethical use of AI, to ensure that it's not about just ignoring the elephant in the room, but actually engaging with it and trying to find ways that are valuable for students to engage with AI that's going to be useful for their future careers, but isn't going to stop them learning. So I don't know if anyone
Well, yeah, I would,
wants to chip in.
Mary and Zeenath and I were talking before you all joined us that, when you see all of these reports, media reports about this student got kicked out, falsely accused of using AI because they used a detector and the detectors are horrible and bad detectors. If you look into all of those stories, they're coming from universities or colleges that did not have policies and procedures in place to properly,
To begin with.
appropriately provide students with what we call in the States due process um, to resolve the case. So I would dare to argue that no matter what you think of detectors, they are not the problem in those situations. The problem is a lack of policy and procedures and clarity around that, and basically letting faculty just say, I think you cheated, and go from there without any recourse for the students. Zeenath, Mary, would you disagree with me here?
No, I think it's even scarier because we're seeing more and more K-12 schools starting to use AI
Mm,
detectors in higher grades, again, without a proper policy, a guideline that is going to help understand what the tool does, what that
yeah,
report means, and how to manage that conversation with the student. Even if I'm using a detector,
yeah,
the policy should tell me that it's just the first ring of ladder
yeah,
to that whole conversation that I'm going to have with a student, not a done deal that you
yeah,
can
the
just use
evidence
it and
by
throw it at a
itself.
student. But like you said, if that framework is missing,
Yeah,
it's the problem of the institution that doesn't have the policy in place and not
yeah,
necessarily the tool, because at the end of the day, it's just a tool.
yeah. Yeah, and so after we kind of tackle practical questions about policies and procedures in the book, then we look at rethinking learning and assessment. And at this point, since we're talking about practical questions, I'll remind you, you can use the Q&A to pose any questions. We're going to have time, lots of time for questions from you. So please feel free to start posting your questions now. So the one thing about rethinking learning and assessment, we also in this chapter did the micro, macro, meso level for this chapter. And one solution to the detector problem is the two-lane approach from University of Sydney, right? Where it says if it's an unsupervised assessment, don't bother trying to ban AI. You're it's a waste of time. You could try and educate students how to use it properly. How do you think they could use it to amplify rather than hinder their learning? You can ask them to document and disclose to raise their metacognition about their use, but don't bother trying to ban it. And therefore you wouldn't, necessarily need to rely on detectors and accusations of Gen AI
Yeah,
misuse. And then for those situations where you think Gen AI would interfere with either the student's learning or your ability to validate their learning, then you secure that assessment. And security just means you know who this person is, it's the enrolled student completing the assessment, and you know what aids they're using, if any. So that's something we talk about in that chapter. We also talk about how what value let us all think about what value added we are going to bring as colleges and universities to the AI enabled dominant world. And we think it's human to human learning experiences, especially for those of us who have physical campuses. We have a ton of buildings on our campus. We have we have dorm rooms for students. And so how do we bring more of that into the classroom, but also how do we bring more experiential opportunities to students?
Unity.
And
Yes.
really double down on focusing on those durable human skills. We used to call them soft skills, right? Zeenath, those engineers used to call
We,
them soft skills. Don't call them that anymore. They're not soft, they're
no,
extremely hard to
yeah.
develop, hard to measure. But focusing on those because we have no idea what jobs are going to exist 6 months from now, let alone 4 years from now. But we know that durable human skills are durable and people
Yeah.
always want them, and our graduates are definitely going to need the ability to learn and adapt to unfamiliar, unknown, changing circumstances. And so we really focus on in that chapter what we should be asking students to learn, how, what we should
Yeah.
rethinking what we're currently doing and how we're currently facilitating and validating learning.
And probably moving away from this compliance mentality to the
Yeah.
conscience mentality, right? Like really aiming to build that culture where ethical, reflective, responsible AI use becomes the norm rather than
Hmm.
the sudden burst of something somebody has done somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. And then Zeenath, you're going to tell them about the ethics of us trying to tackle the ethics of it all.
So it was interesting tackling that chapter with those practical questions because something that's really been driving me a lot is to stop and ask why we just assuming that we have to ensure students are not cheating, we have to ensure students are not using AI in a way that they're not supposed to. We've kind of missed on that conversation of where is their personal moral responsibility in the bigger picture, in the bigger context. And I think the more we move them away or out of that conversation, the less they are likely to actually be a part of that conversation, right? And this is what I'm really an advocate for, that we need to stop talking at students, we need to be talking with students. They need to be a very much a big part of this conversation about building that culture of integrity. And that doesn't happen in one day. I think we even saw that during COVID. Suddenly, institutions that didn't focus on academic integrity were really panicking and they were really having a big, hard time when it came to these online assessments and online tests and things like that, because they were not having the eye-to-eye contact. They were not being able to establish that relationship with their students, and they didn't have that culture to fall back on. But institutions that were working hard on this, there is always that backbone that they can fall back on that helps them to kind of go back and then take a step back and go up the ladder again with integrity.
Yeah.
Tricia?
Zeenath, Mary, so one thing I've been really wrestling with writing this book, but also, conducting what we call resolution meetings with students who've been accused of misusing AI. When I started my job, back in 2006, and I was more optimistic, I suppose. I thought just building on what you just said, Zenith, like we want to graduate people who made the right choice even when no one was watching. Because we don't, in my opinion, we don't need more
No.
professionals out there. We need more ethical
Yeah.
professionals, right? Like we need more ethical politicians. We don't need more politicians, so on and so forth. Ethics, I think, is part of our job as an educational institution. It is one of the durable human skills.
Yes.
So I still believe that, and yet the way in which these general I'm just talking about general purpose chatbots here. I'm not talking about stuff specifically designed like tutors that were specifically designed to help. But these general purpose chatbots with their design to really encourage, entice, seduce cognitive outsourcing, and you're under 25, your frontal lobe's still developing. Is it trusting our students to give them that online assessment and say, build the culture, try and build the culture, give that online assessment and say, I trust you not to cheat? Or is it a dereliction of duty on our part?
I think if we haven't done our bit in building the culture, just jumping to that point is derelict on our part. But
Yeah.
I have seen from experience, and this is something I always get a pushback on from other colleagues. But with my subjects and my students, from day one, I'm trying to build that sense of respect, mutual respect towards each other and towards the content that we are teaching and learning in the class. And the focus, I try to shift the focus away from marks and more towards the focus on learning. Did you really learn this? Did you really understand it? Would you be able to apply this if tomorrow you suddenly got a job offer and you found yourself in an office? You hadn't even finished your degree yet. You're not going to, give up that opportunity. Would you be comfortable sitting in that chair and not feeling like I don't know what I'm doing here and I'm going to hustle my way out? If you think that, that means you've not learned the content. So when I build that culture, I do see students are not interested in marks. So they're not thinking, how am I going to cheat to get the mark? So when I give them a work, I will tell them, for certain types of subjects, you're most welcome to try and use AI, use the chat and, argue with it, debate with it, and then come back and tell me what that debate looked like. So I see that unless I've told them, they're not actually using Gen AI in the class when I'm giving them activities and stuff, because I'm working on building that culture. So in a situation like that, if I am not going to be monitoring them, I do believe, that's again my personal opinion, that I do believe I am helping to build that culture of integrity and showing mutual respect.
Can I ask you two follow-ups? Sorry, Mary.
Yes.
How big are your classes?
So if I'm lecturing, my classes go anywhere from 100 to 300,
Okay,
sometimes
so not
400.
small. Great.
No.
And then you mentioned if they didn't learn the content, that to me speaks to is what we're asking them to learn meaningful and relevant. And I don't think we should be job preparing institutions unless we think of that as building those durable human skills as job
Right.
preparing institutions, right? And so helping students see the content or the processes are relevant, even like helping them see that, right? Mary, what do you think?
Yeah.
So yeah, very much agree. I guess something that maybe hasn't been mentioned so much yet is um, trying to get students to really understand what learning means. Because if they don't, if they sort of think, well, I got the tool to do this and I decided what to write to the
Yeah.
tool, so that's learning.
Yeah.
But uh, kind of trying to break it down in the class so that first you have a discussion about what do students want to get out of the course?
Mm,
What do they want to be able to do? What
mm,
do they want to know about? How can
Mm,
they increase their knowledge or become even an expert on something? How do they achieve that? So kind of
yeah.
trying to keep the focus on the human agency, and that AI should only be an assistive tool. So if AI is becoming the author or producer, then it takes away their learning. So something I
mhm,
use is an AI seesaw. So I say deciding to use AI. Do you want to go up on the seesaw and upskill yourself? So you're using AI just as a tool and you're it's helping you to learn and develop more, or are
mm,
you downskilling, going down on the seesaw, which means really taking your learning away? Maybe even sort of removing what you already know because
mm,
you're relying so much on the AI to do the work for you, to do the thinking for you. So I guess
All of
that's
that
one of the
great.
fundamental things.
Yeah, I mean that all sounds great, but I keep coming back to the problem with that is that we're pretty bad at self-assessing our own learning. Like if you ask most people, they'd be like, "Yeah, I learned," and then if you ask them to actually demonstrate that learning, like Zeenath was saying, they can't do it. So
Mm.
I
yeah.
it makes me think we still need secure assessments to make sure that the student actually does learn. We
Yeah,
can't just depend on them
absolutely.
self-assessing. Yeah.
So, um, I mean, in the UK, there's a lot of universities, including my own, looking at the two-lane approach developed by
Yeah.
Danny Liu, University of Sydney. So the sense of
Sydney.
having one lane that is secure and another lane of assessment that isn't, where
Yeah.
AI can be used. And, you know, I think it's very useful at present to look at assessment in that way, because we can't remove AI out of the picture,
Yeah.
and also we shouldn't. We want to encourage good use of AI, but at the same time, if we just do that, how do we really know that they've learned?
Yeah.
So I think we do have to have secure assessment to fulfill that purpose of assuring learning and
Yeah.
assuring that students don't complete their degrees and graduate
Yeah.
when they don't when they haven't met the learning outcomes and they don't have the skills for whatever
Yeah.
their degree is in. So I think that's really essential, secure
Yeah.
assessment.
Or we could just add ChatGPT to their degree. So it's a bachelor's of arts, Zeenath Con plus ChatGPT. Like
Indeed. Yes.
students can, we can say whether they did secure assessments, or they chose not to. And so we just put that caveat on the degree. Should we move to questions from the audience?
Yeah, I think so. We do have a question in the Q&A.
Ah, thanks.
It's from
Okay.
Yalan.
Yeah.
False positives from AI detection tools can be frustrating and potentially harmful for both students and instructors. My question, just curious about it, is what kinds of institutional guidelines or process procedures should be or can be in place to ensure that AI detection results are treated properly? We don't want to create a policing culture around student writing, but we also need fair and transparent ways to address possible misuse of AI. Thanks.
Oh, it's a big one, right? Zeenath, you're gonna tackle that one first?
Okay, sure. I think I'm going to just quickly go back to what we talked about that policy and guidelines that need to be there and what that's going to look like. And from what we've experienced with all the complaints and problems that we've seen of teachers and students coming to us at the center, one of the biggest things is even if an institution has a policy, the policy says use the detector, but then it doesn't say how you're going to use it. I have seen the reports that these detectors give. Even the report says potentially may be written by AI. But because teachers or educators are not getting that training on how to decipher this report, they're jumping to the conclusion that's it, I'm overworked. I don't have any more energy or bandwidth to go beyond this document. I'm going to say, here is the detection. You did it. You have cheated. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that training, which should be included as a part of the policy, is missing, and it needs to happen. Where we need to explain to the instructors how to decipher that report and how to have that conversation. It's not
Mm,
easy to have that conversation with the
no.
student. And I remember after 2015, the whole scandal that happened in Australia, we had like cascades of changes in policies, right, across Australian institutions. And because we're Australian, of course, it
Mm-hmm.
came down to us as well. And I remember having people come down to us and actually do those workshops where they were training the AIOs, the academic integrity officers. How do you
Mm-hmm.
have that difficult conversation with the student?
Yeah.
Right? So that you don't sound like you're blaming them, but you're leaving the door open enough for them to come back and also have that conversation in a more constructive manner. And that's not happening. That's not there in the policies.
Well, in Zenith, it's not just about the policies, right? That's the infrastructure. The
Yes,
other infrastructure is faculty are not given the time. You said training, but they're not also given the time or the pay or the anything to deal with this, right? Like
yes,
this is on top of their workload. So
yes,
for universities and colleges to really take this seriously, not only do they have to have policies and procedures, but they have to say in faculty job descriptions and in faculty workload calculations you are expected to attend to academic integrity, and that is part of your job, and you'll be compensated for that in some way. I don't know what the answer is, but if we really, a lot of our colleges and universities spout this phrase quality undergraduate education, but do we really back that up with infrastructure? And so I would challenge that. I also want to tackle that last piece about we don't want to create a policing culture. So one thing I know that all three of us have worked on over the years is trying to help people understand that it's not about policing. So I think the way you go about it can feel like policing. So to Zeenath's point about having the conversation, it can be a policing conversation or it could be a teaching educational conversation. And we all say, keep your educator hat on. If you are talking about observing student writing like Anna Mills does, that is about closely observing students performing a skill that you are trying, as an apprentice, they are trying to develop. And as a master, you are trying to help them develop. If we think about apprenticeship model of education, closely observing does not have to look like it does in the fictional story in 2045 in our book. It can look like the apprenticeship model. We send teachers out to classrooms to work with master teachers, and they're closely observed. We send budding doctors, residents out to hospitals, and they're closely observed. Nurses, we do this all the time. So we've got to figure out, how do we do this in other disciplines as well, so that it is fair and transparent and focused on education, not on policing. I do have a site. I haven't updated it in a while, but I do have a site for speaking to maybe principals for having that conversation with the students. So I put that link in there to follow up on that piece too. Mary, did you want to add anything?
I mean, it's a bit different in the UK in that we haven't really endorsed AI detection tools. There was a lot of pushback when there was an attempt by Turnitin to just add it to what institutions were using, and universities resisted. Very few actually accepted. So we don't really have experience of using AI detection tools. And I think as a consequence, we've really focused the question more on what does the student know? So, really doing things like Vivas rather than trying to say, is this AI or is this misuse of AI? The question is, what does the student know? So if they know what they've written about, there really isn't an issue, is there? But if they can't answer questions about it, then we're stuck. Now, I know the immediate question after that is, oh, Vivas, oh no, like, there's all the resources, the time taken up. But I've tried to make some sort of calculations around that to convince the people who say, no, no, we can't do that. Because actually, the amount of time you can spend on trying to decide, is this AI or misuse of AI? Is this an authentic source or not? Or, you could spend so long on that. I think a productive 10 to 15 minutes in a one-to-one situation, establishing what does the student know in relation to something they've submitted, and you're there. You know the answer. So I think that's a better experience. I know you could make some adjustments to that to suit perhaps different students, but I do think it's a helpful method to have right now. I think
Well,
that's
and
I
frankly,
think
that's one of those durable human skills that
yes.
our graduates can talk about what they know. There's very seldom actually, for most of our graduates, they have to write about what they know. Most of the time they have to present, they have to tell their boss, they have to tell a coworker what they know. And so
Correct.
if they're graduating from our schools without experience in doing that, then we've done them a disservice anyways.
Correct. Absolutely. We
We
do
have
have
another.
another Q&A.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have a name. So people keep saying that we can't remove AI out of the picture, but we can. We can essentially require all graded work be completed via exams or other in-class work. Obviously, this is a bummer because writing papers and conducting research develop important skills, even if perhaps it's debatable whether those are important outcomes in the age of AI. Other than money, like enrollment and retention, why are people so reluctant to just go back to the basics of actually requiring students to prove they've learned things? Mhm.
mean, I think there's lots of reasons. I think that we did drop some very valid things like the Vivas because people thought they wouldn't scale. So we didn't drop them because we didn't think they were good ways to
Yeah.
validate student learning or good ways for faculty and students to connect. We dropped them because that felt like they didn't scale to that 300-person classroom that Zeenath was talking about, right? And so finding a way to go back to some things that we dropped for non-pedagogical reasons, I think is a good idea.
Mm.
Um, I I do think the trickiest thing, as someone who I do think there's two tricky things, right? Is writing. Writing a
True.
long research paper, conducting a term length research and writing a paper is very different than writing an exam. Now, I would argue how many of our graduates actually will ever have to write a research paper, a small percentage. And so, to your point, is it the right thing to be requiring all students to do? I don't know. But that's one thing that can be a problem. The other thing is people, I think, mistake in-person exams as secure. If
Yeah.
you're not checking IDs to make sure it's the enrolled student, if you're not checking for meta glasses and other AI-enabled devices, little tiny earphones, if you're using BYOD, bring your own device exams because you didn't want to move away from your LMS system, then those are compromised too. So I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about how secure those
Yes.
in-person exams might be.
And I also think going fully back to exams alone also risks narrowing what we really value, right? At the end of
What
the
we're
day.
assessing. Yeah.
Exactly. And I don't think the issue should be remove AI or accept AI everywhere. I think the better approach is that assessment balance that we are talking about. Some work must be AI free but and verified, but some work can allow AI with transparency, with the right type of, AI literacy for both the teacher and the student, so they know how they're using, what they're using, and how that is amplifying learning in the classroom.
Yeah. Mary.
I mean, yeah, it as we're all saying, we can't go back. We have to recognize where we are. Um, we know there have been disruptors in the past. We have to develop our resilience to be able to manage the present. But there isn't one answer, right?
Yeah.
And we have to look at the context and what we're trying to test to make that decision about whether we say no AI or AI in this way or full AI, as it might be
Mm.
termed. But I think the interactive oral assessments now are really having a moment. I think,
Yeah.
different types of in-person assessment are becoming way more important than they used to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Should we go to our quiz questions for winners of copy of three, right? Three possible
Yes, we've
winners of a
got our
copy of
copies
the book.
here.
So, shall I introduce it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're keeping an eye on
Okay,
the chat.
everybody, it's your chance to win a copy of our book, which we will mail to you wherever you are. What we're going to do is we're going to each ask you a question, and it's going to be the first person who answers that question who wins a copy of the book. We're happy to give away three books. So we got three questions. If you're first to answer in the chat, you'll get the book.
So
So
it's not just about how fast you are to know the answer, but how fast you are at typing. So we
yes, it is a
learning
bit.
outcomes. I guess two learning outcomes we're assessing here.
Okay, very true. All right. So if I ask the first question, now in this case, I want the full name and the title. Okay, so that's just giving you a little bit of information to start. And the question is, what is the name of the protagonist in charge of academic integrity in our story of academic integrity in 2045? Who's going to be first?
Can we do the Jeopardy theme music, or do we have to pay royalties if we do that?
So, full name and title, please.
You don't have to answer it like Jeopardy. It would be like, who is? Somebody right now
Nobody
is,
wants a book. I know
no,
Hannah doesn't want any books because she
well,
said
but I mean, she
she's
can
ordered
look at it.
6.
She ordered, she doesn't have them yet, I suppose.
Oh,
Oh,
Thank you. Not sure what happened.
oh,
Too
really?
much excitement.
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
maybe. Too much excitement, but yeah, we're waiting for an answer to the question. What's the name of the
Maybe we put the
planet?
question in the chat so everybody can see what the question was.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Here, I got it.
Okay, sure.
Do we want to just ask the other two questions and then people
Yeah,
can answer?
So this was question 1. Loretta's given us some answer.
sorry, Loretta, that was the wrong. Ah, okay, Emily's got it. Well done, Emily.
Lovely.
Emily,
UAE.
the answer is Dr. Verity Shield. Well done. It was Chase, Loretta, who was the student in the story,
Student.
but we were
Chase
after the
Dreams.
name
Yeah.
of the protagonist in charge of academic integrity. So,
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Verity Shield. Okay. Thanks,
Next
Yaolan, for
question.
trying. Okay, we're on our next question now. Do you want to
Yeah.
read it out, sir?
What is an example of a human durable skill that connects to academic integrity? So lots of options here.
So we've got some answers coming through already.
Yeah.
Critical thinking. All right. First one goes to Deanna.
Deanna. Okay.
We have one more.
Yeah.
The last question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to do
Should I
that?
should I put should I put it?
Yep.
Okay. What's one other previous
Oh,
disruptor to
you the answer.
Oh.
I will come up with another question, no problem.
Oops.
Okay.
Yeah, make up another question, definitely, Zeenath.
I'm just looking at the book.
As you're
Give me a
encouraging cheating, which shouldn't be our aim.
What's one of the, well, predictions might be too hard. Maybe. What's one of the predictions that led
I
to
was
our
just going to say that. Yes.
Okay, yeah.
One of the five predictions.
one of the 5? So after we
There
read the
were
story, I
5.
went over the 5 predictions that led us to think of why the future might turn out the way it did. Just think of something that drives you crazy now or causes you you wish
There
would
were
change now,
5.
and it probably will, the answer will probably come to you. I'm trying to give a hint that won't give it all away. It's a few things that would dominate higher ed now that drive some of us crazy.
And there were 5.
Yeah, but we only need one. No. I mean, yes, we predict plagiarism will continue. In fact, while you're all thinking, interestingly enough, we are seeing a resurgence in old school cheating, copying
Mm,
from previously submitted papers, attendance falsification, just blowing up. Yes,
Yes.
Candace, that is the first one. Predictive AI will
okay,
join
well done,
next.
Candice.
So I
Predictive
have,
AI will join Gen AI in shaping academic integrity.
yeah,
Oh, yes.
so I have, just so Zeenath and Mary know, I have asked directly, I have given my email to each of our 3 winners to ask them to send their mailing address to. And I think we've got a pretty good spread. I know Candace is in the States and we got a pretty good,
Emily is in UAE.
Oh,
perfect.
handy. Where's Deanna?
That's awesome.
Deanna, whereabouts are you located?
maybe we
It would
can.
be beautiful if she was in UK. That would
Yeah,
be
yeah, absolutely.
that would be so yeah, synergy. Awesome. Well, we are at the top of the hour. Thank you so much. Everybody, there's the link for the book again. So happy you can reach out to any of us. If you email, well, we don't have a page or anything, but you can find us. Just Google us and you'll find our you'll find our contact information. We're happy to hear from any of you, and thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everybody.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone.
Stop the recording.
Mhm.
Mhm. I took a couple of screenshots.
Ah.